What is up, guys? Welcome back to Punk Politics. I'm Made Thompson. Now, you may or may not know that there is a huge government inquiry going on right now. I say you might not know that because it's been sort of bubbling under. The mainstream news have been largely weirdly ignoring it. Like, I thought there was a super injunction or something. Anyway, yesterday was Lee Cain and Dominic Cummings. Today was former Deputy Cabinet Secretary Helen Macnamara.
I was doing my job as a civil servant, and that I'm confident about that, and the way in which it was considered appropriate to describe what should happen to me, yes as a woman, but yes as a civil servant. It's disappointing to me that the Prime Minister didn't pick him up on the use of some of that violent and misogynistic language.
Now, yesterday we heard a load of texts and notes on documents in which it appeared that Dominic Cummings had used rather flowery language. Some said it was misogynistic. I don't know if I personally buy into that. Like, to me, if you're going to use the C word, that doesn't necessarily make you a misogynist. I think most people from my generation, and Dominic Cummings is probably like only about 5 or 7 years older than me. God, that's a worrying thought. Like, do you ever walk down the high street and you see somebody walking along and you take a glance at them and you just eyeball judging them and you're like, God, look at this sad sack of, like his skin's drawn, he just looks miserable. You're not supposed to judge people, but I do. And you do too. Come on, be honest. But sometimes, you look at somebody like that down the high street and you're like, oh God, look at the state of it. And then you remember, oh, actually, if we really look at each other, he's probably about the same age as me. Oh, wait, no, it is me. Yeah, I was just looking in the shop window reflection. Awesome. But I think anyone from my generation, if you come from the southeast of England or even from most of the UK, you've probably said the C word. Like, you call your mates it, they call you it. And it's not just like men, like female friends all call me, or I don't know, maybe it's just everyone calls me it. I mean, it could be that too. But I don't personally subscribe to the theory that using that, C word is misogynistic. Anyway, yesterday Cummings denied that he was part of a misogynistic culture at number 10. Today, former civil servant Helen Macnamara is refuting that. And until this afternoon, I probably would have been in Cummings' corner. Look, I know the language was unprofessional and probably a little bit hard to hear, and I'm not a woman, so I don't know what it feels like to be a woman and have to hear that sort of stuff. But I'm not sure we can credibly call him a misogynist. But now, on Helen Macnamara's testimony and the publication of further WhatsApps, it seems Cummings did say he wanted her handcuffed and escorted out the building, and there were references to dodging stilettos from that C word. So now I'm a little bit more like, all right, Dom, I mean, it's not misogynist, is it? Her testimony also suggested that the parties, the rule breaking that we're all so familiar with now, rather than them being, maybe 5 or 10 or 15 of them, with 10 people staying for wine and cheese over here, and another time maybe over here out having a little garden soiree. She said it's hard to think of one occasion when all of those regulations were ever followed. She said there was one meeting in the diary every day or every week where people were instructed to follow the regulations to the letter, and that was the cabinet meeting. And she said that because it was so restrictive, because it was so to the letter, it didn't take 24 hours for everyone to start campaigning to drop those restrictions within that work setting. I mean, it's quite funny, isn't it, really? When you think about these sort of blitzy, Churchillian, wartime conservative MPs. Like, they can't keep their reproductive organs limp for talk of the war or any other macho rubbish. We're going to wrestle the virus to the ground in 12 weeks. And they're out there behind podiums going, look, it's going to be difficult, but we've all just got to tough it out together. They're wrestle it to the ground in 12 weeks. They're Churchillian. It's just like the Blitz. We're all in this together because we're blighty and stiff upper lip. And then behind closed doors, can't even handle one meeting. Like, they barely get through the agenda and they're like, can we lose the masks? I think they're a bit much. Her testimony also revealed a culture of leaking throughout the cabinet, which I always think is quite funny. Because a cabinet in the UK government is formed. It's supposed to be like collective responsibility. Everyone works together. Like the Prime Minister is the person who you go to market with, the face on the billboard. Yeah, you should vote for us. But then the PM nominates various MPs head of Secretary of State for this and education, and somehow through various cabinet meetings and policy reviews, as a group, as a team, you all agree a way forward together. And I think maybe within a Labour government, you might get something closer to that. But this is the problem with this lot. It's like, if you comprise a team almost entirely of sociopaths, it's like, you could get them out on the campaign trail together. You could get them together for a nice team photo. But if an opportunity for me to get ahead, position myself maybe for some sort of promotion or Sunday Times splash story where my hair is done and all I have to do is leak this document out to Laura Kuenssberg and make this guy look like a right C-word, well then, that is what I'm going to do. It's the rarely heard downside of running a party comprised entirely of psychopaths, I guess. She also spoke about Matt Hancock's nuclear levels of self-confidence. She said she had been assured time and again, like, don't worry. I know things are getting kind of crazy in March 2020, but it's all okay because I'm Matt Hancock and I've got a plan. And Helen Macnamara was like, are you sure? Because, I mean, it's getting quite crazy out there. You sure you got a plan? Yeah, there's totally a plan. Yeah, look, I'm confident in me, in the plan. So you should be totally assured too. As she said, that wasn't an isolated case. This happened again and again. People would push Matt Hancock and be like, look, is this actually happening? And he'd be like, don't worry. Honestly, it's all in. Look, do I look worried? Do I? No. So yeah, it's totally fine. And again, they would find out that this was not the case. And I really think that gets to the sort of core of that Boris Johnson Brexity period. Like, I know primarily the purpose of having this inquiry is to establish lessons that we need to learn. But that is a lesson that we need to learn. We have to move on from this idea that the funny or silly or overconfident guy in the room is the person to listen to or can even half be trusted with any particular situation or challenge that we're facing. It's Johnson taking up the reins for Brexit. It's Hancock assuming everything's going to be fine just because he says it's going to be fine. It's Elon Musk barging into Twitter and assuming that he could just run it with half of the staff. Oh, I'll just sack all the engineers and the moderator. No, it'll be fine. It's a year later now. The whole thing's like a creaking dumpster fire. Anyway, that's it for this one. How do you think this inquiry is going? Do you think the last couple of days have painted a picture of a relatively sane and well-run government department? Or do you agree with me that maybe we should move past this idea that the loudest man in the room is just a person that we should all be listening to? Did you listen to the other testimony today, highlighting the absence of female voices, from the consideration of what lockdown might do to domestic violence, right up to nobody talking about the shape of women's bodies when they were talking about the type of PPE to order? Apparently around the Cabinet Office, women were talked over or not listened to or not invited into conversations. What impact do you think that had on the way that we handled that whole situation? As always, let me know in the comments below. And before I go, do check out the last proper punk politics video that I put up. It's called The Days Are Long for Short-Termists. Until next time, I'm out.